Greetings, people of Earth. Welcome back. My name is Jax, and today we're talking about what's going on in the background. This is essentially going to be an exploration into our lives, yours and mine, and when we have things that are going on that aren't at the top of our head, they aren't the constant cause of anxiety or worry, but they're still going on, and these things are affecting us, and maybe we need to check in and see what's going on in the background. This idea sort of came to me because a friend and I were talking about life and how crazy things are and, dating, relationships, finding places to rent, going to school, worrying about exams, worrying about work, all the typical stresses of life. And she asked me, what do I have going on in the background? And I was pretty blank. I wasn't sure really what she meant, but it got me thinking for the next week about what I don't think about. These things that are in the background, they are there for a reason. We're not typically constantly worrying and umming and ahhing and losing sleep over these things. And yet they have a real impact on how we interact with the world, how we behave, how we encourage and support other people, how we deal with expenses and money and the global political situation and all this stuff. And I've come to a conclusion on some things about background life, for a lack of a better word. And what I've come to is that there are some good and some bad things that are associated with having stuff in the background. And there are ways that these things help us and support us. And there are ways that these things are a detriment and they make us anxious and worried and concerned. And sometimes they just nip at you and you feel as though these things are never going to get solved, or, you don't have time to look at them. So I think I want to start with the negatives because I think they're more apparent and their effect is greater than the good things, which is unfortunate because you'd kind of hope that the good things that are going on in your peripheral would make you feel good and make you feel like you're doing okay and let you sleep easy and breathe. And you'd kind of hope that those things were the most important part, but I don't think they are. And perhaps before I even do that, I should go into examples of this kind of stuff. So things that are in the background of your life, I consider them things you don't have a huge priority on, you're not thinking about all the time, but maybe you think about them now and then and it causes you anxiety and you're like, oh man, I really need to get to that. Some of it has to do with procrastination. For example, it is tax season and I am trying to figure out my taxes and everything, and it's just this going concern. I'm thinking about it and thinking to myself, oh, I really need to get everything together. I really need to understand what I'm doing. I need to talk to a professional. I need to do this. I need to do that. And for the last month and a half, this has been a going concern in the background, in my peripheral vision, just like sort of on the corner of my eye. I need to get this done. And I know that when I actually do it, it's going to take maybe 2 hours. Like, it's not going to be super long. I've been collecting stuff for the whole year, but it's something that I just need to sit down and do. So it's kind of a procrastination thing. It does cause me a bit of anxiety because it needs to get done. And if it's not done, you get some real big penalties and all that kind of fun stuff. So that's a good example of something in the background that is negative that I just need to hurry up and do because it's causing a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of worry, not quite sure what I need. So I need to send some emails and figure out what the heck I'm doing. A negative example of something in the background. A positive example is maybe when you go to work, you have a cinnamon roll sitting for you when you get home. So you have something to look forward to. Maybe it's at the center of your thinking. Personally, it would very much be at the center of my thinking that whole day, is like, oh my gosh, I get to go home and have this lovely dessert. It'll be so nice. It's going to help me get through my day. But for a lot of us, maybe it's just a nice little icing on the cake, literally. And it just helps you get through the day. You're like, you know what? All I have to do is send a few more emails, get this done, go to lunch, finish the last 2 or 3 hours of work, and then head home, depending on your situation, of course. So, like I said, these background events or phenomena that we think about sparingly. We don't think about them all the time. These things can have a big impact on how we handle stress and how we deal with our lives. So the negative things, the things that, man, I really got to get this thing done, or, oh, I really need to respond to this email. I really need to respond to this text. I just don't want to. I don't have the energy or motivation to do so. These things do weigh on us and they do cause us stress. And I have this theory that they probably cause a lot more stress than we give them credit for. You know, they can be so minute. It could be as easy as making your bed in the morning. And yet, you know, you just don't have that motivation. You just woke up, you're exhausted. This is not what you want to be doing. But it's there enough enough in your peripheral vision to go, man, I really just need to do this. And that impact can be pretty negative. Obviously, there are strategies that you can take to limit the power these things have over your life. For example, just sitting down and doing your taxes, or when you wake up, just forcing yourself to make the stupid bed. You know, you're going to get into it tonight, so it kind of seems like a pointless task, but for whatever reason, a nice well-made bed in your room kind of makes you feel good, and it kind of makes you feel like, okay, I can do one simple thing, I can do the next simple thing, and then you go on to have a beautiful, productive day. Maybe that's overstating it for some of you, but I'm sure if you're like me, it's not overstating it at all, because these little things seem like little things, but when there's 20 or 30 of them that you have to do, you just feel as though you are burnt out, stuck under a rock, just cannot catch up, forever playing catch up and trying to race and get this done, get that done. And it is frustrating. It is stressful. It is a thing where we struggle with this. And I think that's unfortunate. So my advice, if you have things going on in the background that are stressing you or causing you anxiety, is to try and bull in a china shop your way through it. Just blitz through it if you can. Make it seem smaller than it is. Talk to somebody about it. You know, maybe share your frustrations. You know, a burden shared is a burden halved. And it's just important to not let these things build up, because you don't want to spend an entire day dealing with this background stuff. Maybe you're one of the people that really works for you. You set aside a scheduled day on a Sunday or whatever, and you just blitz through all the things going on in the background. You get it all done. You respond to the messages. You confirm your reservation at the wedding. You do this, you do that. You get a new phone battery. You do this, you know? These little things do add up and they become actual work. You know, I think a lot of them don't seem like work on their own, but when you look at them as this sum total of, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to spend an entire day dealing with all of this garbage, that's frustrating. That's annoying, because you want to be doing other stuff. You want to watch some TV or go to a sport, or just enjoy being outside, going for a walk, taking the dog for a walk, whatever it might be. You want to focus on that stuff, and these little things add up and then they take your whole day. So even if you just plan to have a week where every single day you take care of one of these little time-consuming, monotonous, frustrating things, it is always better to have a clean background than an entirely messy, crazy one, which is kind of my inspiration for this video, is because it's super boring. That's the idea anyway. Finally, I think we'll talk a little bit about the good things in the background and how you can kind of promote that and you can get those things going in life. You want to be very careful with this, because many of these like good things that we can have going on in the background become burdens or responsibilities. A good example of this is if you're not a plant person and you think that getting a plant will kind of make your day better or whatever, but now you have the responsibility to water it. And for some people, that's really easy. You know, you wake up, you water it, you have an app that tells you when you need to water your orchid or whatever it might be. That's great. For some of us, we'll rush into getting a plant and then we have to deal with the perpetual need to care for it, to water it, to take off the dead leaves, to move it into a place where it's getting more sun, to repot it. And so this is like a real problem, but it's also an analogy for these things that you do to yourself and these choices you make in life that you think, I'm really going to enjoy this. And then you end up really not enjoying it. And it becomes a negative background thing. So just be very careful when you decide to make a choice that you think you're really going to enjoy. And, even just telling people, oh yeah, I'm going to start violin, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. Suddenly now you feel as though you're pressured into doing this thing that once you get a little familiar with it, you say, oh, this actually really isn't for me. And then you're dealing with social anxiety of people asking, like, how's violin going? Or how's this doing? And so you have this like compounding effect where something you thought was going to be a nice little diversion or distraction becomes anxiety inducing. And suddenly this positive thing has become a negative thing, and you feel really bad because it's self-inflicted. You did this to yourself. And so you feel as though, man, I really shot myself in the foot with this one. So be really thoughtful and mindful about the positive things. Like I said, they can be really empowering, and they can make your day go by faster, more enjoyable, getting to have coffee with a friend. Hopefully you're not dreading those kinds of situations. I think a lot of us make plans with people and then we feel like, oh man, like I really wish I hadn't made that plan. Suddenly it's a negative background thing. And in all honesty, it's a very nuanced and difficult discussion, but be mindful of the things you have going on in the background. This is the universal advice that'll work for both sides. It'll work for you. Be mindful of what you have going on in the background, and be very careful about adding things to your background. You could think of it like a shelf. You are a bookshelf. You can choose to put books on it. You can choose to put flowers or pretty ornaments or Lego statues. You can choose to put whatever you want on this shelf. It is you. But you need to be careful because you have a limited space. You need to understand that this shelf is going to be with you your entire life, and you have to be very particular about what you decide to display, what you decide to commit to, what you decide to enjoy or put there for later. Maybe you've got to put a bit of paperwork on that shelf because you got to get that done soon. And then you put this other thing and you put a plant there, and now you've got to water the plant. And so you can get into these commitments and to these factors in life that initially you just needed a place to put them because you couldn't deal with them in the moment. But now you have an entire wall of work. You've got to organize this. You've got to file the papers. You've got to water the plants. You've got to feed the fish. And the shelf that you created to embody who you are and who you want to be as a person and to enrich your life has become nothing but work. It's become this problem in the background that you just feel as though you don't have the energy to deal with. And this shelf could be a beautiful, self-sustaining thing that you enjoy taking care of, you enjoy looking at, you enjoy smelling the flowers, you enjoy watching the fish swim. So be very mindful about what you have going on in the background. Be very mindful about the nuances and the intricacies that life has, because some parts of this you will not see coming. You won't see the burden of having to take care of this specific plant. You won't see that coming. You'll just think, oh, that's a nice plant. I'd like to have it in my background. But some of these things have unforeseen consequences, and you're never going to know them all. But if you're just mindful and you understand, I'm going to have weeks where I'm just trying to keep my head above water. I'm just trying to swim along and get to next month. I'm trying to get through this summer. I'm going to try and get through the winter. You're going to have factors like that. So being mindful about what you commit to, what you decide to put in your corner needs to be a priority. And again, like many of these videos, be mindful, be open to hearing other discussions and other ideas. Don't be afraid to share your problems here, down below if you want, or with someone you love. Do not be afraid to think carefully and critically about these things. Seek guidance and wisdom from people who are better than us, and hold a little bit of grace and give yourself the credit, because all of that, which is a lot, is important to keep in mind. At the end of the day, you want to live a good life. You want to enjoy your things. You don't want to feel stressed 24/7. So if something isn't working, figure out how you can get rid of it. Figure out how you can change it or sell it or whatever, and get it the heck out of your life. That's all I gotta say. So I hope this video is helpful. I know it's kind of an interesting question because it's not purely philosophical and it's not purely practical. It's kind of this mix of two ideas, and I hope it's come across decently well. Leave me your comments, your questions, how you felt this video impacted you. I would hate to think that this video caused anxiety for you to worry about things going on in the background, because at the end of the day, they are in the background for a reason. So if it's really stressing you out, put it on the background. You know, we do this out of necessity. I advocate that you want to try and shrink it over time. Don't try and grind through it the whole way. But like I said, let me know how you think. Let me know what you think about this concept. And I hope you're having a beautiful day, week, month, year, millennium, century, whatever you're having. I hope it's amazing, genuinely. And as always, I will talk to you guys tomorrow.